Hello, I'm here to introduce Jack Elias. Elias, did I?
Elias.
Oh, I said it right, pretty much. How to Free Yourself from Everyday Trances. Jack is the author of the acclaimed book, Finding True Magic, and he'll be giving a book away at the end of his talk today. Used by students, clinicians, and teachers internationally as a holistic approach to mind and body healing. A clinical hypnotherapist in private practice since 1988. Jack is the founder and director of the Institute for Therapeutic Learning, a licensed vocational school in Seattle, training and certifying transpersonal clinical hypnotherapist since 1988. Jack presents a unique synthesis of Eastern and Western perspectives on the nature of consciousness and communication, teaching simple yet powerful techniques for achieving one's highest personal and professional goals, including his experiential workshops and seminars and his Finding True Magic courses. Jack serves an international clientele in his private practice, Lucid art therapy, and life coaching. Jack is also doing 4-part seminars online. And once you register, if you can't make the seminar, he records it and sends it out. So there's always a way to connect with Jack. And I took his last seminar, and it was great. Like, I didn't even know half the stuff. So it was really informative and helpful. So I want to introduce Jack. I'm going to move away from the podium to let him come up.
Okay, that's it. Oh, I can put this up here. You gotta let me know if I don't hold it in the right place. Well, I was hoping to have a way for this illustration, but you'll just have to remember me. Which you're good at.
Closer to your phone.
Closer to my mouth. Okay. I'll try to do it. So, everybody here is a hypnotherapist? Okay. No, mostly. So, you're probably familiar with the notion of everyday trances, right? And but anybody still get caught by them? Okay, so we know about them.
Are you talking about like they stuck on your phone?
I'm talking anything. And let me put it this way. I have a definition for true adult consciousness. Like, we all think we have adult bodies, but we rarely are in true adult consciousness. Some of the characteristics of true adult consciousness are you don't take things personally. Not because you have a thick skin or you're a narcissist or something like that. It's because you have clarity of consciousness to recognize that nothing is personal. And this is not religion, this is not belief, this is verifiable, direct experience if you pay attention. For example, everything we're aware of right now is coming to us through our senses, right? And we have mirroring internal senses, like you can see, hear, smell, taste, and touch inwardly as well as outwardly, right? So it's all sensory. Sensory data that comes to you through your senses has no meaning until you give it meaning. So if somebody says, you're a stupid jerk, that's just sounds until you give it meaning. And if you give it meaning as an attack on yourself, we call that taking things personally. But we are totally in charge of quote unquote taking things personally. It's which means that blame is a diluted state. Because blame is a statement of cause and effect. You hurt my feelings. When you said that, you hurt my feelings. That's a statement of cause and effect, right? Every statement of cause and effect. Okay. So we can test that. When you called me stupid, that hurt my feelings. So in order to test it, we need what do you call it in science? Where you have control. Thank you. We have a control. So the control is going to be water. I've never met anybody that disputes the fact that water is the cause of wetness. Okay? Which means no matter what else is going on, doesn't matter. Water is the cause of wetness. So we're going to line 10 of you up in your imagination. And one of you is going to be with me holding a tray of 10 little shot glasses. And we're going to walk down the line of the other 10. In front of each one of you, we're going to stop and throw a little shot glass of water in your face. Now, there's men here, there's women here, tall, short, young, older. Different vocations, maybe besides being hypnotherapists, different personal histories, ethnicities. Is any of that going to stop you from getting wet? No, because water is the cause of wetness. Okay, now we're going to dry everybody off. I'm going to walk down that same line, and in front of each person, I'm going to say exactly the same way I said to my friend who said I hurt their feelings because I called them stupid. I'm going to look each person in the eye with the same tonality and say, you're stupid. First person might punch me. Second person might laugh. Third person might cry. Fourth person might say, what are you talking about? You don't even know me. It's very easy to assume you could have 10 different responses, right? Or even if it was just 3 different or 2, that would be proof that me saying you're stupid is not the cause of hurt feelings. If it was, everyone would have to have hurt feelings, just like everyone got love. Okay? Is this simple? Is it understandable? Is it familiar? No, not familiar to some. Okay. You want this to be familiar. Because it's integrating this is an aspect of having actual adult consciousness, which means you recognize, because you recognize how the mind works, the nature of phenomena, it's just obvious that nothing can be personal except you telling yourself it's personal. Like my friend, I said, you're stupid. He or she could have said, you don't know what you're talking about. Or, which is slightly defensive. Another aspect of adult consciousness, never defensive. Never a need to be defensive. Because you know nothing is personal. Yes. Anytime, questions, go ahead.
So when someone does something to you intentionally with the intent to hurt your feelings, are you saying that is more a reflection of who they are and what they're doing, and you don't have to have hurt feelings about it?
That's all it is. Great question. People can only express their inner state. people can only express their inner state. There's another aspect of true adult consciousness. You thoroughly understand this. People are always only expressing their inner state. And, you know, when I wrote this book about 1995, published first edition, it really shocked a lot of people because my training background is more from my Buddhist practice and study than from hypnotherapy. So what I liked about hypnotherapy and saw it as a way to communicate these very profound understandings about nature of consciousness and reality that were hard for Westerners to understand because they were being presented from Eastern languages and traditions. So what I saw was that hypnosis, the teaching that everything was an illusion in the Eastern studies, which is really misunderstood then and now. It means that language is inherently hypnotic. So I presented that in my book. It was kind of revolutionary at the time. Now, you know, words spread. But I'm not taking credit for thinking it up. I'm sharing what I know from my teacher. Language is inherently hypnotic. Meaning that, well, let's put it this way. People here, are you familiar with thinking? Okay. And so you're all adults, so you then have adult bodies. You have had a lot of time to get familiar with thinking. So this is going to be an easy question. If you've been in class of mine or heard me do this, don't answer. Let other people answer. What do thoughts refer to? What do thoughts refer? I mean, you're thinking, right? What are they referring to? Look at it.
Mental stimuli, you're asking us to think, therefore we're thinking. You see donuts on a table, you think I'm hungry.
So what do thoughts refer to?
Stimuli. Some can. Some
Stimuli.
thoughts.
What's the stimuli?
Well, in an example, you see water. Because you saw it, that triggers your brain to think, am I thirsty or not? Yes, I am. I want water. But is that really a thought or is that the reality?
Of course it's a thought. You're thinking, you just said it to me. You can only say thoughts to me.
Yeah, but I guess the question is it a reaction or is it an intentional thought?
Well, what are you reacting to?
Well, right now, you're asking us what do thoughts relate to, so I'm searching my brain for what thoughts relate to.
Yes.
This is the only concrete example I can think of, and it also matches that you're asking, that's the stimuli.
Okay.
Thing.
Water is a thought. That's not water. Water is a thought. Okay? Glass is a thought. I want. That's a thought. So what do thoughts refer to?
Representation.
Representations, that's a thought. What do thoughts refer to?
What is that thoughts for things?
That's another thought. What do thoughts refer to? Energy is a thought. What do thoughts refer to? It's so simple. We don't get it. Not just you. Nobody gets it. It's important to get it. What do thoughts refer to? Perspective. Those are more thoughts. What do thoughts refer to? Needs. What? Needs. Needs is a thought. What do thoughts refer to? Okay, everybody does this. So, and I usually torment people like comments, for a little while, because you know how experience, or if we say suggestion, hypnotic suggestion, the way we want to make it effective is if it's vivid, as well as repetitive. So I'm torturing you to make it vivid. Thoughts refer to other thoughts. Thoughts can only refer to other thoughts. Thoughts can only refer to other thoughts. In case I didn't make myself clear, thoughts can only refer to other thoughts. Now, I'm sure every one of you has a light bulb go on in your head. And the light bulb is, if thoughts can only refer to other thoughts, it's impossible to think about yourself because you are not a thought. Which means any idea, any thought you have about a burden, that burden belongs to who you think you are, not to who you really are. You're not who you think you are. Who you think you are is simply who you think you are. And it's our most profound set of trances. If we weren't involved in who we think we are, we would have no burdens. Because many reasons. One is the past is over with. The actual past is over with. One of the ways that language is hypnotic is that we immediately get absorbed in ideas like the past. Like somebody will say, well, what about the real past? There is no real past. It doesn't exist. What we are relating to is the huge library of little virtual reality movies that our massive creative ability creates in the midst of experience, creating a facsimile of experience. The experience is over, we maintain the little movie. We're relating to our constructed facsimiles of the past. We're not bound by the actual past. We're bound by the way we relate to our memories, our facsimiles. And that's entirely within our creative power. We've lost the awareness. Another aspect of adult consciousness, you are more and more aware that you are the creator of your experience, not the victim. You're addicted to being the victim of experience. Something comes up in our mind that's disturbing. That's about me. We take it personally. Memory comes up about, you name it. Could be an abusive memory, could be just, broke your arm on a swing, whatever. You get disturbed about it, as opposed to recognizing it's a movie. A facsimile of something that no longer exists. I'm not in there. There's no reason for me to feel upset. I'm here right now. Nothing's upsetting me. As it doesn't mean we're stoned. Like if I were to spill this on me right now, I would get wet with coffee and I would go, oh, F. But that would be in my present time alive responsiveness. If I drove home saying, you dumb shit, That's unnecessary. It can be subtle, like driving here, I got lost because my GPS, had something against me. It attacked me. It sent me, afterwards, while I was waiting to be introduced, I discovered, oh, there's a Nile Shrine Center, which I had input to go to, that's completely bogus. It's not there. It was supposed to be, but there's a Nile golf course I finally find. And if I'd have put in Nile golf course, I would have got here easy. Anyway, I had to go around in circles. I finally called Danny's husband because I didn't have Danny's phone number. The whole universe was just out to get me. And so I had made my second round and I told him where it was and he told me where to go. And so I got here, I'm parked in front of the bar. I hope I'm not going to get towed, all the way around the corner. Anyway, so I came running up the stairs and I didn't catch her name, but she said, "Breathe." And I thought, that was unnecessary. I could have just said thank you. And I knew to breathe. But there was a little bit of meanness in there, a little bit of me-ness in there. Who do you think you were telling me to breathe? I'm a hypnotherapist. I know all about breathing. So you're not who you think you are. Who you think you are is simply who you think you are. It's just thinking. Thoughts refer to other thoughts. You cannot define your true self, if you put it that way. Your true self cannot be defined because it's not a thing. Your true self has no boundaries because those would be other thoughts making you a thing. If something has boundaries, it's a thing. Like this has boundaries. It's a cup, it's not the table. If it didn't have any boundaries, you couldn't distinguish it from anything. So your true self is a thought, but some thoughts are useful because they point you the way out of the trap of thoughts. Your true self is not a thought. So anything you think about yourself is a fiction. It's okay. Don't think it's wrong. One of the ways we are hypnotized by language is morality. Morality is inherently deluded. That's not a moralistic statement. It's a scientific statement. Morality posits cause and effect relationships that are based on religious beliefs. They're all bogus cause and effect relationships. Give you an example. You could have someone completely devout Christian who believes in God, and it's the only God, and you could have a Muslim who thinks Allah is the only Allah, and they both say, look at each other, you don't believe in my God? I can kill you. That's morality. All of our suffering is based in moralistic thinking. Good, bad, right, wrong, praise and blame, success and failure. Those are all bogus cause and effect relationships. They're all just opinions. They're all just opinions. Maybe you can think of a time when your parents, because they're our main indoctrinators for the most part. They indoctrinate us in that. If they're clueless or intentionally abusive parents, they teach us all kinds of ridiculous, bogus cause and effect relationships that you spilled your milk, you don't deserve love and respect. You make me sick, you're so, horrible things that the child, in the gullibility of a young mind of a child, they take it as a valid statement of truth because their parents are gods. Their parents are their gods. Not to mention the fact of repetition and vividness. Like, let's say we're all here, let's say we're all an average of 6 feet tall. Let's say a 2-year-old's 2 feet tall. Let's say their parent is 6 feet tall. Let's say the child is 20 pounds, the parent's 200 pounds. So 3-to-1 height ratio, 10-to-1 weight ratio. So let's say all of a sudden through this door comes an 18-foot tall, 2,000-pound person. Would you be concerned about what they had to say or think about you? Would their presence be immediately vivid? They wouldn't have to be yelling particularly. It's just purely vivid. So think of that little child every day exposed to thousands, in terms of repetition, thousands of experiences with this giant God. That the child, they're not thinking about it, it's just visceral. It's whatever they say or do to us is the law of the universe. So let's say you do spill your milk, you're 3. Getting hand-eye coordination, you can sit at the table now, you can pick up your glass, but you spill it. Let's say your dad. Could be the mom, let's just say it's the dad. Having a hard time at work, feels like he's being bullied at work, so the only place he can feel powerful at home and release his pent-up rage. You spill your milk, he blows up, calls you all kinds of harm, you dumb little blah, 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 grabs you by the arm, yanks you out of your chair, throws you down, kicks you in your room, don't come out till you disgust me. That child, once they kind of release some of the trauma of that somewhat to kind of contemplate their experience, although they can't really. The reasoning is, if they could reason, you spill your milk, you're disgusting, dumb shit, you deserve to be hit, yanked, kicked, locked in a room. The law of the universe. They're not in their room saying that was so unfair. He is so crazy. He's taking out his stress at work. They don't understand that adults have inner lives and inner conflicts. Whatever the adult says or does is the law of the universe. That's how we develop this habit of taking things personally. Because we were habituated to it before we had a cognitive faculty that could reject it out of wisdom, out of comprehensive understanding of what's going on. So this is other term that just came out. If y'all have done any kind of writing or speaking, sometimes just stuff comes out that sounds great. So when I wrote this, and I was writing the second phase about regression, I came up with this term, chronically regressed trance states of identity. That's what we're shifting amongst all day long. We have a whole bundle of them. They're all get triggered by present time phenomena, but it triggers us into relating in one of these virtual reality movies. Chronically regress. You know what chronic means. You all know what regress means. Chronically regress, trance, because you're not dealing with reality, you're dealing with your movie. Trance state of identity. There's a lot of other trance phenomena going on, but it's not the problem with remembering a memory and that it being a trance, that's not the problem. The problem is the identification. Thinking this is about me. And you lose actual adult consciousness when you do that. Yes.
So
I'm on.
for the current parent, like kids, how do
you teach, you speak to them in a way that introduces them to how the mind works, how your mind works, how their mind works. Very, a simple little piece of it in terms of how their mind works. Let's say you have a rambunctious little boy or girl, and he pushes one of his friends down. He's like to push him to go get something. Instead of punishing, praise and blame friend. Instead of punishing, you stop him, you get down, you, with kindness and firmness, but kindness, you say, did you push her because you wanted to get to the table? You're introducing them to the fact that they have motivations, as opposed to just being unconsciously ruled by their impulse. The impulse to get a cookie comes from the motivation, the desire to have the cookie. So you start creating space in their mind to recognize there is a space between their impulse and what their motivation is, and that there are different ways to get to the table without pushing her out of the way. You could just walk around her. You could ask her to get out of the way, because if it was you, you would want to be pushed, right? And you teach them to think about themselves in other people's shoes. Very simple, powerful things. Huge. Teaching children, first of all, you're not ever blaming them. You're examining what happened. Remember, anything we say or do is an expression of our inner state. So you want to understand the inner state of the child. What's going on? As opposed to indoctrinating into morality, like you should never, that is so bad, you should. In terms of yourself, you say, sweetheart. You always start with the connection of warmth. Sweetheart, when you rip up the paper, I feel upset because I think I'm not going to have time to clean it up. I appreciate you're just exploring. It's a fun thing. How about I tear up some little more paper with you and then show you the other fun part of it, which is how to gather, scoop it all up, those pieces. It's so much fun. And then put them in this thing, this magical thing. It's a waste of this magical place where they love to hide. Okay? The point is, you never make them a target, same way you never make yourself a target. Because the only one who can be targeted is an idea of self, not the real self.
I love your answer about the individual. What about a group, like collective memory, a nation, a group of people that are creating those meanings to the words, to the language that they speak for a long, long time?
Yeah. Repetition and vividness. It's very convincing to them. That's the tragedy of humanity. We don't realize, very few of us realize the nature of consciousness and how we're creating experience. I mean, what's happening in the world today? You know, I was brought up in the 50s, born in the 40s, raised in the 50s, small town America. I believed in the American, you know, wonderful place. Hadn't been educated. I was in upstate New York. Hadn't been educated about slavery, particularly in any way that stopped my mind and broke my heart. But, you know, I thought, well, this Nazi stuff, it can never happen here. And now I've learned it's always been happening here. They gave it a shot in the 30s. Might have taken over in the 30s if Hitler hadn't attacked or Japan hadn't attacked. The momentum to create a Christian nationalist state might have succeeded way back then. But if you just listen to how people talk, isn't it full of blame, full of hatred, full of demonization? That's all fantasy. It's all fantasy. We're all the same life force. We get hypnotized into otherness by size and shape and color and degree of wealth or intelligence. This feebleness of our personality consciousness is just trained from childhood to immediately latch on and to praise and blame, hatred and love. The hatred and love part, the love part is the opposite of hate. That's not real love. You know, it's very encapsulated. It's personal investment. Whereas actual love is selfless, unbiased. And so we're in the middle of it now. Who knows what's going to happen after January 20th? The main thing to do is, in my opinion, is to practice clarity and kindness. And recognize from a place of clarity and kindness, you can set strong boundaries. You don't need hatred to set strong boundaries. You don't need hatred to fight an injustice. Because if you hate it, then you just become part of it. So it's very challenging. It's very challenging. I mean, you know, so many people now are demonizing civil rights again. Want to completely annihilate the Voting Rights Act. Those people in the 60s, they peacefully walked into policemen on horseback with billy clubs and let themselves get beaten and hospitalized and killed without resorting to violence. Martin Luther King continued to assert we're all brothers, you know, we're all sisters, to, you know, to create a peaceful, loving society. No demons. Even when he's sitting at home with his family and little children, and a fire, rock with fire on it, comes through the window into the living room. I'm not talking about this as a political thing. I'm talking about it as examples of how, what kind of choices human beings can make. Like a lot of times in the news, we hear these people are afraid to stand up to Trump because they're afraid MAGA is going to get them. So they acquiesce. If Martin Luther King had done that, there'd be no, you know, if the Black people who decided, I'm not going to be a slave anymore, if they had been put off by the threat of death, they'd all still be slaves. We internalize that. It's like, you know, we are slaves in relationship to our habitual patterns. We are afraid to rebel against them in many cases. This is not political, out there, what's this out there political stuff? This is about how our mind functions in here. Inner and outer are the same. The good news is that you have all your power all the time. You have all your freedom all the time. You have all your power and freedom all the time. Suffering is a creative act. I'm not saying we don't get victimized. You know, you can have somebody beat you up on the street, you can get run over by a car, you can be damaged, victimized, but that's the body. Creating an inner posture of victim, that's optional. When we help people clear trauma, this is really what's going on. My personal opinion is really important, helps you to understand these deep mechanisms and perspectives on how the mind functions, even though you could just do the technique and get results, pretty good results. It's better for you, better for your clients, if you can give them a much deeper understanding. For example, I've had people, I do a very simple technique with them, and I won't go into it because of the time, but quickly they feel great relief. And it's something I can easily do. And they'll say, well, how long am I going to have to do this? I'll say, well, your question demonstrates, it's understandable. We're indoctrinated in this society. Part of the indoctrinated aspect is therapy. We're indoctrinated into therapy, the idea of therapy. So when you think of therapy technique, you think of therapy technique. It's like a thing you do and then you put it down. If it works, you do it. It works, then you forget it. If it doesn't work, you forget it anyway too. Go on, yell, give a bed. But what I say to people when you say that is, what you just did was not a technique. Plus, this good feeling you have, you created that good feeling by the way you related to yourself in this so-called technique. Because we are indoctrinated good feeling. A lot of people say, oh, feels so wonderful. I occasionally have felt this way in the past, but it always goes away. Always goes away means you're treating it like the weather. Of course you don't control the weather, but you do control the ability to access inherent qualities of being. So it's like, let's say you took one, I feel calm and peaceful. I say, you like that? What you just did created that. So if you like that, keep doing it. And like any other habit, the more we do it, the stronger it gets. So if you keep doing this simple thing we did, and the peace, the calmness will expand, get deeper, get richer, include other aspects. You just do it. Because our habitual capacity is hardwired. The more you do something, create a habit, results guaranteed. But the other thing is, I say, we're not practicing a technique. We're practicing sanity. What you just did was an action, a choice and an action that's inherently sane. Why? Because you're approaching yourself with love, respect, and encouragement. That's sanity. If you approach yourself or anyone else with anything except love, respect, and encouragement, it's insane. Now, love, I don't mean emotional, romantic love. I mean love that's a recognition. Maybe not have any particular feeling. You've probably all understood or heard that real love is action, not emotion. No matter what emotional state comes up when someone is there. Maybe it does something that you feel offended by. Love is to stay in the action of love. That you recognize them. You recognize whatever they just did is a confession of their pain, fear, and confusion. You don't dismiss that and say, but I didn't like it. You don't take it personally. Taking it personally is arrogant. I like to add buzzwords like that because people don't want to hear that. It's arrogant. Like people go, oh, but I'm so blah, 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 blah. I say, that's so arrogant. You go, what do you mean? Arrogance, the way I'm using it is not, there's a lot of moralistic associations with the word arrogant. That's not what I mean. In order to take an arrogant position, it's important to understand that the essence of arrogance is separation. How can I feel arrogant in relationship to you or whatever? I'm immediately proclaiming I'm separate. But there's no separation. At the level of being and consciousness, there's no separation. But there is the ability to hallucinate separation. And that's self-talk. Hallucinating separation. I had a very successful body worker come who also taught, and he was afflicted by all these doubts and things. And I said to him, this is so arrogant. And I said, the essence of arrogance is separation. So that any arrogant thinking is proclaiming separation, which is a delusion. So you could say arrogant thinking is stupid thinking. And he really grabbed onto that. He was able to work with it. He came back every session. I started to go into this habit and I just thought stupid thinking and boom. Imagine if some habitual fear, hate, depression, greed, you just go, oh, stupid thinking. Stupid thinking. Not moralistically stupid because it's deluded, because it's positing separation where there isn't. It's like if you were a stage hypnotist and you hypnotize somebody to be a dog and start barking, everybody would laugh. It's harmless there, but in other contexts, it causes all of our suffering. Believing you're a dog, believing you're a victim, same thing. Am I okay?
5 minutes.
5 minutes? Okay.
Wow, and then observing what you just said.
Okay. Yeah, but
Yeah, you remind me of kindness is a form of intelligence.
it isn't, it's inherently intelligent.
Yeah, and also remind me of the Lebanese part that is the beginning. Said, when the baby is born, we give them a name, we give them religion, we give them a group of way of thinking that they go up and they defend those things that they never really asked for the rest of their lives.
Yeah.
I think this is so powerful. I just got my body sparse.
Yeah. And you have to live there. There's always the shadow side. In every thing we're thinking, it's like one way to talk about duality is we hallucinate one-sided coins. We're convinced it's a one-sided coin, but that's absurd. There's always the other side. So what you just described, one way to think about the one-sidedness of coins is we forget context. The reason people can grow up the way you described is because it's in a context where there was not enough empathy, not enough heart communication of love, respect, and encouragement, that then they would be able to, even though you brought up in a different religion, I respect you, as you know, as long as you're not doing harm to people, I can appreciate you live your life according to what feels right to you, as opposed to have to kill you if you don't believe in mine. So it's not simply teaching delusion. It's that pretty much when you teach delusion, almost axiomatic, you're withholding love, respect, and encouragement. Because if you give a child love, respect, and encouragement, they will be able to think for themselves. And you don't want that. You want them to believe what you believe. I've had many successful doctors and lawyers who are just suffering horribly because they're a doctor or a lawyer, because their parents expected that of them. They really wanted to be, you know, whatever, artist, or even sell apples on the street. The point is, they were never living their own life. They had a smart brain, they had abilities, but all of their abilities were taken over by the authoritarian indoctrination they received when they were a child and couldn't defend against it. So money and fame are not the answer. The answer is to self-reflect, to recognize, first of all, remember, you have all your power and all your freedom all the time, which is why you can suffer so horribly. When you're suffering, you're squeezing yourself. But we have learned not to notice the squeezing, but we notice the stories about why we're in pain. I'm in pain because of that. No, you're not in pain because of that. You're in pain because when you think about that and access that, you squeeze yourself. That's why you're in suffering. You're squeezing yourself. When you recognize that, you don't have to be perfect about it. Let's say you're going along your kind of clueless habit patterns until finally the squeezing is enough that you notice you're in pain. If you remember, I have all my power and all my freedom all the time. Instead of looking at the story and saying, that's why I'm suffering, you go, I have all my power and all my freedom all the time. Why the fuck am I doing this? And you let it go. You don't have to fix anything in the memory. You don't have to fix any relationship in the memory. None. That's all just a fantasy. And there's nothing there except your imagination, which includes, I'm going like this. That's one side. Never forget, you're also imagining this side in relationship to that. Adult consciousness doesn't do that. Adult consciousness, you maintain the awareness. You're not in your experiences. You're witnessing them. So that's all, that all happens in now. It all happens now. It all happens. So I'm starting a webinar this Wednesday called Healing Happens in the Present Moment. Something like that. Anyway, if you go to jackelias.com/training, you can go there and click and read all about it and register. To pick up on what Danny said, it's every Wednesday for 4 Wednesdays at noon. However, every class is recorded and available for unlimited viewing for the whole week up until the next class. So scheduling is not a problem. I have people around the world that never can make the live training because of time zone stuff, but they still join and watch the videos. So please come. It's well worth it. Right, Danny?
It is well worth it. Thank you very much. So you get all that mind-blowing stuff that you just did. Are your mind blown? Yes. Yes, that's what you get in his seminars. I am honored to present to you, Jack, a Lifetime Achievement Award from the National Guild of Hypnotists Washington Chapter for the advancement of hypnotherapy and writing Finding True Magic, Transpersonal Clinical Hypnotherapist Training. So we will have a picture taken of you with the board out in the foyer before
Okay.
you leave, but
Okay.
congratulations for
Yeah.
your lifetime achievement.
I have to leave. I have to leave because my wife is severely immunocompromised, very concerned about catching anything, and that's why I'm gonna leave and not hang out
Yeah,
while you all are wearing masks, so thank you for that.
yes, and